breaking and entering, drunk and disorderly, law and order. A former prosecutor and a defence lawyer, not your typical pairing. And the result? Conversations about crime and punishment that are guaranteed to get you thinking.
Welcome to Justice Matters, a weekly podcast with Lizzie Green and Joe Crowley. Our episodes are available every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Justice Matters Pod for clips. Enjoy the episode. This episode contains descriptions of murder and family violence. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, Lizzie.
Hello, Joe.
How are you?
I am very well. How are you?
I am all right. Although we're going to talk about a pretty dark subject.
Oh.
Just surprise, surprise. Something new for
Glad
this podcast.
It's not necessarily me raising it this time.
Yes. So I've mentioned this to you a couple of times that I was going to do an episode like this. And it's on children who kill their parents.
Oh, yes, because I did the one about parents who kill their children.
Yeah. In fact, there was a couple of other cases which I just didn't end up getting to enough across to feel like I should talk about. But it was also came from a recommendation from one of our listeners, and Mrs. Rachel, and she is a journalist, and she was a young journalist in Sydney in the early 2000s when the case of Gonzalez, which is the main case I'm going to talk about today, was going through the courts, and she had to cover it as a young court reporter.
Wow.
So because I asked her once, what kind of interesting cases did you do when you were young, reporting on the courts, looking for stuff for us to do a program on? And she said, the case of Gonzalez. And she named a couple of others, but this was a particularly interesting one because it was about child murder. It was about a child killing their family.
And so obviously when we say child killing family,
not that young.
Not that young.
No, university age.
But so only child because it's their parents
Correct.
Often that they kill. So
Yes.
they may be adults themselves.
Yeah, they're adults themselves, yeah. Was it fratricide where you kill your parents?
Isn't that brothers? Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, but also it's been in the media recently because there was a man in Western Australia, Andre Rebello. Did you hear about this case?
No.
He's been convicted of murdering his mother.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was described as a lifestyle influencer. Again, this is all this media stuff I'm not familiar with.
Yeah,
but
really?
He,
It does surprise me.
Do I look like a guy to look at lifestyle influencers? Anyway, he was dating a woman who was an Instagram model, described as an Instagram model, Grace Piscopo. I want to say it's probably not pronounced correctly. Anyway, she was making six-figure sum as an Instagram influencer, and he was dating her, and he was a good-looking young man. He's in his 20s,
right?
But he wasn't doing as well. They had a child together. He was driving trucks for Coles, delivery trucks for Coles, while she was making very good money, and he was also doing some admin work for her business and looking after their child. And the prosecution case is that he felt that he needed to bring in more money. And so he thought that a quick way to do this would be to inherit money from his mother's estate, which is problematic when she's still alive.
Yes.
So the prosecution case was, and the jury accepted this, that he had insured his mother's life for 3 different policies, and that he wanted to inherit that money, and so he killed her. Now, interestingly, cause of death unknown.
Really?
Yes. So his mother's 58 and fit and healthy, exercises regularly. I think she must have been divorced. If the father was dead, he didn't seem to be in the picture. She was found dead in the bathroom of her house.
Yes.
And police were alerted by her psychologist. I think she'd missed an appointment, and the psychologist raised the alarm, and they went over and they found her. And the autopsy could not determine cause of death.
So no obvious signs of trauma then?
No obvious signs of trauma, no.
So it must have been something internal.
Yeah, some kind of poison. And we've talked on this episode about how difficult it can be to determine whether somebody's been poisoned before. Very interesting.
That's so strange because this was recent.
Yeah, this is. I think the death occurs in trial was this year, and he was found guilty. But I think the death was a couple of years ago, 3 years, 4 years ago.
So you'd think they would have all of the, latest.
Yeah, latest. Well, I said it's hard to work out how people died.
Yeah,
It's
you did say that.
hard. I mean, the problem with is shows like CSI and in these detective novels that you like to read, they make it seem like it's very easy to determine how someone dies. And I mean, often it is if you can see some kind of injuries to their body. But if you
Yes.
can't see any injuries to their body, it can be difficult to work out how someone
A
died.
true mystery.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, despite that, he was convicted. I think most of the evidence against him went to motive, which I'm always skeptical of, but it was his behaviour in relation to getting the money from the estate.
Well, and sorry, just to clarify, if it says cause of death unknown,
Mm.
by inference, does that mean not natural causes?
Well, I think the coroner's report talked about the fact that she was healthy and she didn't have any comorbidities, I think they call them,
Right.
any reason that she should have, as a 58-year-old, just died.
Okay.
Um,
Which is suspicious in itself.
Yes. Yeah, it can be. Having said that, I mean, Shane Warne's probably a good example. If
Was he healthy, Joe?
he was looking pretty good.
Wasn't he like the
And he-
drinker and smoker?
Yeah, sure, he's a drinker and smoker, but I mean, there's lots of people who drink and smoke and don't die at 52.
No,
So-
that's true.
I mean, I think my point there is he had a pre-existing heart condition which was undiagnosed.
Yes.
So they find that out after he's passed away.
But so nothing like that for this victim.
No, apparently not.
Okay.
The coroner couldn't determine cause of death. Anyway,
right.
so her
So
son,
they had the motive.
yeah.
What else?
No, that seems about it. Oh, sorry. Again, we've covered this in our podcast. Because he's only just been convicted and it was a jury convicting him, there's no written record. So I just had to go
Right.
off what was reported in the paper.
Yes.
So I haven't got an appeal decision to read. So it was a bit light on for details.
Okay.
I will say it was quite sad. He had a younger brother and a twin sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so that must be very hard for them.
Yes.
Not only have they lost their mother, but they find out their brother has committed the murder.
I know. I think often you do focus on the victim and the accused, and there's just this whole supporting cast
Yeah.
in horrible crimes who sometimes don't get
Yeah.
looked at. But I guess with the motive, sorry to come back to that.
No.
So he wanted the money, but also he'd taken out the policies.
Yes, he'd taken out the policies. There was some reporting in the paper which I couldn't follow, which was that he kept badgering other people to sign documents so that they could get the money. So I'm wondering if somehow some other family members were involved
okay.
in not in the motive to murder, but
yeah.
somehow connected to the policy that required
Right.
them to sign
Sign.
stuff, because it was that behaviour I gather from the newspaper reports. It was the sort of the
Problematic.
suspicious behaviour. But it does sound interesting in that there's no cause of death, which is very difficult then to determine murder and an intention to kill
Mm.
when you can't even work out how they caused the death, which is the other element to murder. Anyway, that was.
Is he appealing?
I don't know. It's so recent.
Right.
This is in the last couple of weeks. So
Oh, okay. Right.
maybe he will.
Interesting.
But the case that I really wanted to talk about, which is slightly different, it's again a son killing parents, but in this case it was also killing both parents and sister.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, it was a destruction of his entire family.
And do we know how old he was?
He was at university, so he was in his early 20s, yeah. And his name was Sef, S-E-F Gonzalez. So this, I'll tell you what confronts the police when they arrive, and then we might work backwards to find out what happened. So, I mean, spoiler alert, I've already told you he's found guilty, but bit of a giveaway. But so what happens is at 10 minutes to midnight or 12 minutes to midnight on the 10th of July in 2001, the police get a call from Sef Gonzalez, absolutely frantic, saying, my parents have been murdered. My parents have been murdered. And he's hysterical. So they obviously send squad car around to look. What had happened slightly before that is that his neighbours on both sides had been woken. One of them was woken directly by Sef. He'd gone and banged on the window and said, get up. And the guy came in and he said, my family's been murdered. My family's been murdered. Go and have a look and this kind of stuff. That neighbour didn't go and look. But another neighbour heard Sef calling out, help, help, somebody help, and had come out. Sef went over and said to him, my family's all been shot. go and, look. And that guy actually walked into the house.
Wow.
And so what he saw and what the police saw when they walked in is they saw the bodies of both Mr. Gonzalez and Mrs. Gonzalez lying close in in that front sort of area. You walk into the house, I gather there's sort of a lounge room area, and they're both, in that lounge room area. And they're both dead. And they've both been stabbed to death quite violently. Well, when I say quite violently, incredibly violently.
Oh, really?
So the coroner's report was, certainly for Mr. Gonzalez, that the force that was required to kill him, that was used to kill him, was way more than they needed to actually kill him. And he had been stabbed in the chest and in the hands, presumably defensive wounds, in the abdomen. So multiple times. But it indicates to me chest and abdomen indicates an overarm stabbing and then an underarm stabbing. So you're really, it's quite
getting stuck in.
Yeah, quite a frenzied attack. But one of the stab wounds had severed his spine.
From the front.
From the front. That's pretty big time.
Can I just say, not to take us off track,
no,
but this is reminding me so much of Gillum.
Yes. Okay. The case of Gillum, an earlier episode. I wish we could remember the number. Because actually, in our list of former episodes, it's not listed under the name Gillum. I think it's listed as Australia's worst miscarriage of justice.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah,
yes.
That was the title we gave it.
Because we talked about.
Yeah, the case of Jeffrey Gillum in New South Wales, definitely worth a listen.
But so similar so far.
Yes, very similar. Also on the wall is written, what was it? It was, "Fuck off Asians."
Please, not in French. Blood.
Not in blood.
Oh,
spray paint.
Thank God.
And then it had KKK written next to it.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Ku Klux Klan. Bit contrived, I would have thought. But anyway.
Bit of a mixed message there, wasn't it?
Look, I don't follow the KKK, but I assume that they're racists and so don't like Asians as well as African Americans.
I thought it was more about the African Americans.
Who knows?
Just anyone who's not white.
Yeah, maybe some KKK members can put comments.
Please don't. Please don't.
Anyway, so that's in the front room. Then they go into the girl's bedroom, which is nearby, and the daughter, who I think she was a school age. Certainly, she was studying.
She was younger,
and she is also dead.
Oh.
She's had her throat cut right through a windpipe. Yes, but also had been bashed with a baseball bat.
What?
Yeah.
This is extreme overkill.
Extreme violence. Yeah, absolutely.
What about the mum?
Oh, sorry, the mum was also dead from stab wounds, very similar to the dad, chest and abdomen stab wounds.
Same kind of force.
Same kind of force. I don't think she'd had as badly as having her spine severed, but yes, I think she had more stab wounds than the father.
I actually feel it deep in my stomach listening to parents and a sister killed by him. I can't picture it.
No, yeah, it would be horrible, and I might talk about a bit later what that might have meant in terms of how the murder actually occurs. So that's what the police find in the house. So they immediately and
where's he?
He's there. Seth Gonzalez is there, distraught.
But
crying.
Not admitting anything.
No, not admitting anything. No, and I must say the neighbours on the night felt that he was genuine in terms of his grief.
Well, and I think we've talked about the fact that you can kill someone and then immediately feel grief.
Feel bad. Well, and considering the amount of time he was killing his family.
Yeah.
So they then work backwards to try and to piece together what happens during the day. So I'll put together the afternoon, with probably some slight sidetracks to just explain some more details on the characters. So the father, Mr. Gonzalez, his name is Teddy Gonzalez. I wonder if that's some anglicised, because they're Filipino Australians who'd moved to Australia in the mid-90s,
right,
and or early 90s, and he was a lawyer in the Philippines, I think, and a businessman, and he had retrained as a lawyer in Australia, and he had then started his own law firm. And it was essentially a reasonable, successful sort of suburban law firm.
Good.
So he worked at the law firm. His wife also worked at the law firm, Loiva, I'm going to say. Let's hope that is Loiva. And she worked at the law, I think, doing admin maybe.
Right.
But Seth also worked there just part-time filing clerk or something, although he was studying arts law.
Okay, so you said he was at uni.
Yeah.
What city are we in?
We are in Sydney.
Sydney.
Yes, one of the outer suburbs of Sydney. So, so on the 10th of July, the three of them are at work, and the daughter, whose name is Claudine, she's at home studying. So Seth finishes up work at its ordinary finishing time, and he heads home. So that's about 4 o'clock he finishes, and he goes home. So in the driveway is the mum's car. He pulls up in the driveway, and then he goes inside the house. So the police can verify this kind of stuff. The mother finishes work at 5, and she then drives home, parks her car in the driveway. So there's 2 cars, the mum's car and Seth's car in the driveway. She goes into the house. The auntie visits at 6 p.m. and all the lights in the house are off. And she thinks that's a little strange because she can see the mum's car in the driveway and Seth's car in the driveway. And she said, that's a bit odd. Knocks on the door, no answer. Some of the things I read said that she could see movement in the house, or thought there was movement in the house, or that she thought it was odd they had some dogs and the dogs didn't bark or anything. Anyway, luckily, she doesn't let herself in. I think she had a key. She just leaves. So that's at 6 o'clock. And then the father finishes work, and he finishes work about 6:30, and he drives home. Okay. Then the next thing that the police find out, so the police know when they all arrive home. So that plays out in terms of how long it takes to kill these 3 people, because obviously the sisters, the sister's been at home all day, so who knows when she died. If you're not saying it's Seth Gonzalez, she's died at some point, but they know that the mum died around 5:30. So she finishes at 5, she goes home.
Medical evidence said that?
No, they got that from the crime scene because she still had her shoes on. She was close to the front door. She still had her shoes on, and she still had her handbag near her. I don't think it was slung across her shoulder.
So it was an ambush.
Yeah, and so that the evidence was that her routine was that she would get to the front door, take her, step inside the house, take her shoes off, and then go on. And the fact that she still had her shoes on, they said, meant that she was attacked as soon as she effectively got in the house. Yes. So around 5:30. So they know that she's died around 5:30. They know where her body's lying, which means that, and they know where Mr. Gonzalez, Teddy Gonzalez's body is lying, again, just inside the door. So he must have been killed as soon as he arrives home about 6:50, because obviously he opens the door and he sees his wife stabbed to death.
Yeah.
So he's obviously got to be dispatched at that point as well.
Immediately.
So they know that those 2 die around then, and I think then they later piece together what happened to the daughter. So they've got that they've got that idea about who's home and where everybody is. They talked to Seth about where he was, and they know he goes off at 8 o'clock and meets a friend, and then he goes to a restaurant, has dinner, and he goes to an arcade, plays video games, comes home at 11:30. And then raises the alarm with the neighbours and calls the police. So they know all of that.
Okay, I hate all the cross-referencing.
No.
But this has shades of the Menendez Brothers.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Again, 2-parter episode we did on the Menendez Brothers. Are They Really Monsters? I think that was titled. And so they'd come home. They'd gone out after shooting their parents
to create
an alibi. Problem is that the father leaves work at 6:30, and he's not with his friend till 8:30. So there's this window of time, and he's got to explain why his car's sitting in the driveway when his auntie visits at 6 and he's not there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that's problematic. So he gives a story about how he was, I think he said he was sitting in his car, or he visited another friend earlier, and then he went to this friend. Anyway, his alibis come unstuck a bit later on when they sort of look into him. So that's what that's what confronts the police, and so they I should say that Seth Gonzalez goes on the TV the day after, so the 11th of July, and I think 12th of July, 13th of July. He's on the news crying, saying, anybody with any information, come forward. We've got to catch them.
I hate that.
Yes. We've seen that before in some episodes, haven't we?
Bait Clay, another episode we've done. I love all this cross-fertilisation we're doing. But I mean, I think it probably says something, and it's a point I've made before. Often crimes are committed in the same way.
And so you do see the same things cropping up in the same crime. So
Yeah.
when you do get a crime, it's like that's not how those crimes tend to be committed. You know,
Do
like
you know what
like Lindy Chamberlain, you know, like Henry Carey, the ones that are miscarriage of justice. That's why I say it should be obvious from the get-go there's something wrong, because they're not committed in these quite typical ways that murders are committed.
You know what I just am trying to wrap my head around?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he killed the sister first.
He did.
He did?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. And so then he waits, kills his mum.
Yeah.
Then he has to wait
Yeah.
to kill his dad.
Yeah.
And then he's in the house until he goes at 8:30.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. What is he doing in that time?
Spray painting fuck off Asians KKK on the wall was one of the things he's doing.
Like that is so deliberate and methodical and calculated.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk about the daughter. So what the prosecution case is that he leaves work at 4 at his dad's law firm, and he comes home and he basically walks straight in and murders his daughter. Oh, so his sister. She's sitting at her desk studying. And so one of the things you talked about earlier, you said, oh, you know, this is, you know, such a frenzied attacks, and it would be, you know, quite obviously overwhelming and shocking. But even more so because you are, you know, this is your family member. You live in the house with them. I mean, how many times, you know, did your brother or sister just wander into your room and, you know, you don't even turn around to look. You're just like, oh, you know, get out or whatever. You know, and they've got this murderous intent. You've got absolutely no hope of, because it is a complete ambush.
Yeah.
And so they think that she was originally, certainly she was partially strangled. And they thought that as he's strangling her, he's also hitting her on the head with the baseball bat. Then he ends up stabbing her.
Did he have, oh, maybe I'm jumping too far ahead. Did he have a mental illness?
No, I mean, no, well, there was a
history of any kind of?
No.
Like this was out of the blue?
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry.
When you say it was out of the blue, so, and I don't want to get involved in victim blaming, but his parents were quite strict. So they had, I think, you know, done well for themselves in the Philippines. They were good business people. But there had been an earthquake in the Philippines in the early 90s, I don't recall it, and it had destroyed a building. They owned a small hotel, I think, and it had destroyed the hotel. So they and in fact, I think Seth, as a young child, had been stuck in the rubble of the hotel and had to be dug out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so they decided to move to Australia. They always had enough money to do that. And so they moved to Australia and then sort of rebuilt their lives. But they owned property in the Philippines still, and they owned property in Australia. Him and this house that they lived in, I think maybe the you know, the office where the business was or something, and they had a superannuation, and so it was all up. It was worth about $500,000.
Okay.
I mean, this is 25 years ago, so that's more worth
fair whack.
Now. Yeah. So they had put a lot of pressure on both of their children to do well. They wanted them to study hard, and they wanted to be doctors or lawyers. So Seth had originally started doing, I think, some kind of medical science at uni. Didn't do well, but by the time the murder occurs, he's at law school, and he isn't doing well. And he's in fact hiding his grades from his parents.
Oh.
You know, so I think that, well, certainly in terms of academic.
What year is this?
2001.
Do you remember when they used to publish your results in the paper?
Oh, yeah.
And my mother, bless her, knew my student number.
Wow.
So she would come and wake me with the paper to tell me my marks.
Yeah.
I didn't even have a chance to prepare.
That's rough. Yeah, well, yeah, they don't do that now. Maybe they should do that.
Oh, no.
Build a bit of resilience.
I think let people be with their marks.
Yeah. So
so he was hiding his marks.
So he was hiding his marks. He wanted to be a musician, and they didn't want him to be a musician. So he had this unfulfilled dream of being a musician. And certainly the prosecution case, which the jury accepted, is that the motive for the murder was because he didn't want to live the life his parents wanted him to, and he wanted to
the pressure and
get rid of them and inherit their money, and then he could sort of do what he wanted to do.
So I don't think that's victim blaming. I think that's probably similar to many, many, many families.
Well, certainly similar to the Menendez brothers, again, with their overbearing parents.
Well, are we saying that they were overbearing? Like they had said he couldn't follow a musical career? I mean,
yeah.
I think I think he didn't like being told what not to do.
No, yeah,
But
certainly no.
I don't know that we're victim blaming by saying they had expectations and
Good.
rules. I mean,
There you
he's
go.
obviously still living at home and they're supporting him. And
Yeah.
So-
So they're entitled to ask something for their
well,
some
to
return on
have
investment.
some say or give
Yeah.
the advice
Yeah.
or guidance.
So certainly not any kind of a justification for murder.
No.
So what was his other behaviours that? Oh, that's right. So they start looking into his alibis, and they obviously the alibi with the friend going out after 8 o'clock's fine, that works. But the alibi between sort of 6:30 and 8, which he needs to provide the time for, doesn't help. Doesn't
dodgy.
work. And so I think he said he'd gone to a friend's place and they checked that out, and it turned out he hadn't. So then he then says, no, he went to a brothel. And they say, well, why didn't you drive your car to the brothel? And he said he took a taxi. So they check with the taxi company.
Yeah, that's able to be checked.
Yeah, and they check that. And they check with the brothel too.
I understand why he wasn't doing well in law school.
He's
wasn't listening.
Because he
didn't take anything in.
Didn't take anything in. So they check with the brothel. They're like, yeah, no, he didn't come here either. So that alibi falls apart. Plus, they also look into his behaviour, and they find that within a week of the parents being killed, he's called their accountant to ask how much he's going to inherit.
Oh.
Gets even better. Goes to the local Lexus dealership.
He did not.
Puts down a deposit on a $170,000 Lexus.
Okay.
I mean, that is, don't get me wrong, that is a lovely car.
That is a lovely car, but poor Seth. He had no idea.
Well, he didn't have any idea in terms of cars, because his car, which was his pride and joy, was a green Ford Fiesta. I'm like, really?
No.
Come on.
That's not what I'm
better than
talking
that.
about. He has no idea how to get away with a crime.
Well, he's correct. He also he has very odd taste, because he does the eulogy at the combined funeral for all three of them. No, it gets even worse.
What?
He sings One Sweet Day by Mariah Carey.
Okay. This is ridiculous. We talked about
The Menendez
the song
Brothers.
at the funeral at the Menendez
What was the
Brothers.
song? I can't remember.
I can't remember, but it was inappropriate. It
Totally
was
inappropriate.
When I See You Smile or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't it that? I can't remember. But okay, so this is so many parallels.
I know, but I think the Menendez Brothers just played the
first?
song. He actually sings the song.
He sang it,
Oh,
right.
it's 2001. So after the Menendez Brothers, that was mid-90s.
Maybe he borrowed
Maybe
some
borrowed
ideas.
from there. I don't know the song One Sweet Day by Mariah Carey. Anyway.
No, but I imagine Mariah Carey is high pitched. She's got that amazing range.
Yeah.
So I'm picturing him singing a.
Maybe he's a falsetto.
He
Who
could
knows?
be.
I don't know.
Could
He
be.
can really hit those high
Although
notes.
he wanted to be a musician, maybe he'd
I think-
changed it up.
Yeah, well, I think I think he was showcasing his musical talent at the funeral of his parents.
Like I do feel so sad for the parents and the sister, but his antics post offence are problematic.
Yeah, is absolutely right. So the police obviously are starting to focus in on him. And they look into all this behavior, and then they decide that he is probably good for it. So they then go and they've been doing all of this forensic testing of the stab wounds, and I don't think they ever find the knife. He manages to get rid of that at some point.
Right.
The other thing he did was he changed his clothes. So obviously one of the first things the police would do, they turn up at the house. He's the person who finds the bodies.
Yes.
He made the Rebello call, but he's a family member, so he's going to be a suspect. So they take the clothes he's wearing and they test the clothes he's wearing. So he was smart enough to get rid of those clothes.
So he got rid of them.
Got rid of his clothes, got rid of the shoes as well, because obviously when you're stabbing somebody, you're probably going to be walking in blood or have blood spatter on your shoes. Because there were actual bloody shoe prints in the carpet or on the floor of the house.
From the shoes he was then wearing.
No, well,
from when he committed it.
From when he commits the murder.
Right.
But when they see him,
different shoes.
They take his shoes, different shoes. They take his clothes, different clothes.
So,
no blood on his clothes, no blood on his shoes.
So, I mean, obviously he got changed.
He
But
did, yeah.
did they ever find the clothes?
Yes, so there was some good sleuthing on the part of the police. They don't find the clothes, but the clothes that he was wearing when the police came did have paint on them, which was matched to the spray paint on the walls of the...
So maybe that was an afterthought.
Yeah, so he must have changed his clothes, then done the spray painting. Anyway, they matched the spray paint to the spray paint on the walls. But and in terms of good sleuthing, there's some more good sleuthing in relation to the shoes. So what they have in the they've got these bloody shoe prints in the house. They find the shoebox in his room with no shoes in it, but they then go and find out what type of shoes they are and match it to...
Yeah, that's very good sleuthing. Yeah.
Very good sleuthing.
And because his room's in the house, like, did they do a really thorough forensic search? Did he drip any blood into his room or anything?
Well, they didn't. As I say, the only things that they sort of forensically connected to him are this tiny bit of
black paint.
Yeah, I don't know. It was black. Anyway, whatever. Certainly, whatever the spray paint was, that part of it got onto the clothes, and they managed to match those two. And then this shoe print.
Okay.
They've obviously got an opportunity because although he's got an alibi for part of it, he has this missing hour and a half.
Mm.
Well, I mean, in fact, he's last seen by anyone at 4 when he leaves work, and then he has to account for between 4 and 8 o'clock. And certainly his car being at the house at 6 o'clock, seen by his auntie, very problematic.
He hadn't planned on that visit, had he?
No, he'd planned on lots of stuff, but
and
not that.
He couldn't open the door because his mother would have been right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, because by that stage he'd killed his mother, yeah. Couldn't. I mean, he would have had to kill his auntie. I mean,
Well, at least he drew the line somewhere.
You're just getting into this, just this mass slaughter.
Do we ever know? Oh, it was for money.
Yeah, so it's for money. And because
that's it. Yeah, okay.
Oh, interesting motivating factor. So, okay, but the plot thickens in terms of motive or in terms of the tying him into being the killer. Because even though it's 2001, they go back through his internet search history. Yeah.
Really?
Interesting, yeah.
2001.
2001.
Oh, yeah. I had a computer by then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I had a computer.
I think it was still dial-up.
Yeah, that's right. So in his internet search history, they find that he's been searching poisons and what are really strong toxins and poisons. Yeah. And I can't remember whether they find that he's ordered some online or something. I don't think they find any of the poisons at the house, like open packets or something. But they then go and look, and they find that the mother had gone to hospital a week before the murder with mysterious abdominal pains and had actually spent a night or two in hospital. And so they come to the conclusion, I think the jury accepts this went before the jury, that he had obviously had a previous attempt to kill his family. That
went before the jury?
Yeah, because it's in the judgment.
Wow.
And they talk about it. He had his previous attempt.
That's pretty prejudicial.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously very sensitive to that prejudicial evidence coming before juries, but I can see the point because they are trying to, build up this pattern, and they've got some evidence
that they're different types of
different ways of killing people.
Yeah,
sure, but that assumes that. I mean, I think it's mistaken to believe that killers always work in the same way,
I know, but if you think about, and you know more than me, but like similar fact or tendency evidence, is that enough?
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, because similar fact evidence, again, another episode we've done, it's got to be strikingly similar.
Yeah. I'm not sad that it went before the jury.
I think it probably went in as, is it similar fact evidence or is it some other kind of, state of mind or something? Raised Chester,
his poor mum.
I know. So he'd had they found that he'd had an earlier
attempt
at trying to kill her, which is,
but no poison found in the house.
No. I think the only evidence they have, I think possibly they got some kind of toxicology report on the mum, which gave some indication, and they'd found. They probably. I think there was something more. I'm just trying to remember from the judgment now. That they'd got the internet search history. They'd seen what he was searching, and I think there was some indication that he maybe had tried to buy it or something like that. So there's something a little more than those two quite disparate pieces of information.
That is very different methodology. Like poison is, hands off.
Yes.
Compared to this absolute bloodbath that he ended up
committing.
Yeah,
absolutely. But I think, because we watch movies like, Silence of the Lambs or whatever, these, these serial killer movies. And I think one of the big points in those movies is, they catch the killer because he always does the same thing every time. And, he's always, leaving something at the crime scene or whatever. And I don't think that is borne out. I think there are a number of serial killers. I think we've done serial killers who've killed people in different ways.
Yeah,
that couples who kill episode.
And
there was a couple in West Australia who killed people in different ways.
I wasn't saying I didn't think it was likely. I'm just saying he really had a turnaround, didn't he? His initial thought was poison.
Yeah,
and he was right up close at the end there.
Yeah, well,
because I think it's easier. Yeah. To kill someone by poisoning.
Oh, absolutely.
Than to do what he did.
Yeah.
Like that takes time and determination and strength and
Oh yeah, to look someone in the eye and stab them to death is a big deal. I talked to a historian who had interviewed First World War veterans from the Light Brigade charge. And on Beersheba, and in that charge, so there's a movie on that if people want to watch it from the early 80s. But the Australian Light Horse charge, and they have to charge through these fire from these guns, from this artillery. But then once they get through that, they get under effectively the range that the artillery can hit them. They've got to take the town, and so they had to, they get to the guns and the gun emplacements and the trenches that the Turkish soldiers had. And then they had hand-to-hand fighting. So they were having to stab people to death with their bayonets. And this historian had said, even, 60 years later when he was interviewing them, how affected they obviously were by that very up-close and personal killing of people.
Yeah, it's so
visceral, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so to do that to your own parents and your sister. Yeah, it takes a very odd sort of personality.
Yeah.
So he's obviously in the frame, odd behaviour.
Pretty quickly?
Oh, I think within a few weeks.
Yep.
And they start to piece together. I mean, his alibi falling apart. My experience of police is,
once you've lied to police.
They'll zone in on you. And the other problem that the police. So he tries to make it out like there is, this has been some kind of racial killing. So hence the thing on the wall. The other thing that he does, and they find that he does, is he manufactures an email from his dad's sort of business rival or something. I don't know, the other local lawyer or something.
Right.
And it's this vaguely threatening email, and he sort of gives that to the police, to try and again throw some sort of shade on somebody else.
Imagine the level of technological ability in 2001 to send a fake email.
I don't think he sent it. I think he just printed it. I mean, that's what I took it to mean. He just typed it up on Word, made it look like it was printed out.
Oh, Lord.
But the other thing he did was when they started to look into the poisoning was, or possibly this was when his mother didn't die and he was trying to cover his tracks. He then sent the supermarket where he bought it from this poison pen letter saying, your stuff's poisoned. Oh, that's right. Saying, I've poisoned your, whatever.
The products.
Yeah, the products, whatever, the mum had been, I put poison in these products. Anyway, and the store manager gets it, and it was a little bit odd, and it goes up the chain in the supermarket and then eventually finds its way to the police.
But how did they know it was from him?
Because they go to his computer.
Oh, man.
And he's typed out on his own home computer.
I know, yeah, he was never going to get through law school. Sorry, Seth.
You think law students are much more cunning, are they?
Oh, I think they've got more common sense than that.
Yeah. So that the police, I mean, not only can he not come up with an alibi, which is problematic in itself, but he then, the police then, every time he tries to sort of throw, distractions, they end up working out it's him all along. The other thing that just doesn't work in terms of so the police initially arrive, and of course they think, the initial suspicions are a break and enter gone wrong.
But so his story is he came home.
He says, I came home after being with my friend at the video arcade.
So when
and look
he
what
left, they were alive, he says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When just before he popped off to the prostitutes, they were all well and good.
All well and good.
So, so they originally think, okay, is this a robbery gone wrong? The problem is that although there's some things that have been disturbed in the house.
Nothing's taken.
Yeah, and including cash on the bodies of like his parents in his mum's purse and his dad's wallet. Like you would have, I mean, if you're going to take the time to do
stage it.
Yeah, like at least take some cash out of the wallet, stick it in your, I mean, cash is untraceable. You could just put it in your pocket, spend it at the arcade, and nobody would know.
Wow.
So then, but the other thing is that a robbery gone wrong doesn't account for the time period because they know that there's at least how long between the mum and the dad dying. I mean, the mum gets home an hour or more than an hour, I think. Yeah. So they know that it's unlikely that you'd break in, get disturbed in a robbery, murder somebody, then wait for an hour and a half for the next person to come home and murder them.
Yes, especially when nothing's gone.
And not take anything.
Yeah.
So, again, it's the way, the timing just doesn't work for that as well. So very quickly they had some suspicions about it. And, of course, his fake alibi was problematic. So they then sort of zoomed in on him. And he, goes to trial.
He went to trial.
Yeah, went to trial, got convicted. Appealed.
So it would have been only murder on the table, surely. You could not have a manslaughter conviction on all of that planning and premeditation.
Oh, I think just the manner of death says you can't. You can't. Not have an intention to do serious harm when you're stabbing somebody.
Did he try to raise any defense like provocation or?
No, I don't think so. I think he just said mistaken identity case, wasn't him.
Went well for him.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And he got to 25 years. So I mean, I actually didn't get a chance to look up what happened to him, whether he's out.
He only got 25 years.
Well, I think there was a non-parole period, but I mean that's 2001. So let's assume he goes to trial in 2002 or 3, a couple of years to sort of get it all.
He could be out.
He could absolutely be out. Actually, I've got the appeal judgment here. When was the appeal judgment?
Joe, maybe we shouldn't have done this one.
I know. You think he's going to come for us? Yeah, 2004. So, but presumably they backdate it because he's going to be having been in
custody.
Yeah.
Well, just for anyone listening, this was Joe's choice today to talk about this one.
Yeah, well, because we've done Couples Who Kill. We did.
No, I mean,
we did Parents Who Kill Their Children.
Mr. Gonzalez doesn't like what we said.
Mr. Gonzalez. Yeah, you can come and see me here recording at Bond University. We can have a chat about
it.
Stop. Anyway, yeah.
So the appeal failed.
Appeal failed. He went off to jail. I don't think it was ever. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. He got 3 life sentences.
Oh, that's
backdated to. Interestingly, 13 June 2002. So it must have taken him about a year to really put the case together and then arrest him, and then he spends that time in custody.
So is that consecutive or cumulative?
I think it would have to. We don't do consecutive. We don't put people away for like 300 years in this country. So I suspect that's.
I guess because it was all one course of criminality.
Yeah, yep. And he then. But I felt sorry for the relatives who go to the funeral. He does the eulogy, and then later on they find out he's the murderer. I don't think you want your murderer doing your eulogy, do you?
No, but I think that must happen more than we know.
You certainly don't want him singing One Sweet Day by Mariah Carey.
No, we won't make that the outro.
That public. Please don't sing that at my funeral. No, we won't make that the outro. Yeah, that would be trivializing what is really quite a horrible murder.
Yeah, that is really murder. Sad. And I would say financially motivated. Like you talk about the parental control, but he just was greedy and wanted to live the life he wanted without.
Yeah. I mean, and similar to Andre Rebello, who we started with, he was
greed.
It was all about getting money and getting money quickly so that he could live the Instagram influencer lifestyle.
Do you know, like I did do some research one time, not for this, but for something else about mothers who had been the victim of homicide by their children.
Yeah.
and it was a startling number of people. And obviously adult offenders for the most part. But I just was thinking, because the coercive control laws come in May.
Yes.
And one of the elements is that you have to be 18 to be charged.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I do sometimes think, like I know of cases where later teenagers have become, you know, whether it's drugs or other issues, very aggressive in the home. And we know that domestic and family violence includes all the different types of relationships. But I just thought it was interesting that it's only applicable in an adult context when I think it does happen from a younger
Well, I suppose
age.
that's got something to do with the psychological control that they're exerting or something, doesn't it? I don't know.
Anyway, just a thought I had the other day. But obviously children do terrible things.
Well, there you go. Another dark topic for all our listeners.
But as you said, it is a true crime.
It is a true crime podcast. Yeah. Sort of in the advertising.
You're welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Not at all. Thanks, Lizzie.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed it, please rate and review or like and subscribe. It all helps Lizzie and I keep this podcast going. If you're interested in clips, you can look at them on Instagram and TikTok. Just search for Justice Matters Pod. See you next episode.